92
Whatever
what?
you graduated.
88.
Whatever.
All right.
That was loud enough.
Was that loud enough?
Who's 88? We good, folks? Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen, Highway Commissioners, Cemetery Commissioners meeting of February 25th, 2019. First order of business, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sign it, we'll pass it around.
Good evening, everyone. Second up on the agenda is acceptance of minutes for February 11th, 2019. What is the board's pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the minutes of February 11th, 2019 as written.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. We have appointments. Registrar, Republican appointments. What is the board's pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we
Appoint-
reappoint James Brinker, 10 Luther Lane, and with the term to expire March 31st, 2021, and Pellegrino Doria, Jimmy, 22 Joshua Place, term to expire March 31st, 2020.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. I'd just like to note for the record that Mr. Dioria is not technically a reappointment. There was a mistake made on his
Oh.
expiration date, so it's just a housekeeping issue.
Oh, yeah.
Any further questions? Hearing none. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Next up, resignations and appointments. The board accepts with regret the resignation. Dennis Collette, please accept my resignation from the Finance Appropriation Advisory Committee effective immediately. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to serve the town of Dudley. Accept with regrets. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we regretfully accept the resignation of Dennis Collette from the Finance Appropriation and Advisory Committee, effective February 20th, 2019.
Motion
Mr. Chairman, I regretfully second.
made. Just ask the administrator to send a letter on the town's behalf thanking him for his service. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Can we all, is that one of our appointments? Was that a moderator appointment, do we know?
Good question.
All right, whatever the
We'll
process.
take any and all applicants, though.
Right.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, please, if anybody wants to volunteer, FAA is a good place to start, so come see us.
But be careful, they rope you in. You never know where you're going to end up.
Mr. Bose, you want to handle the next one? Oh, no, actually, first off, we gotta go through, I was looking at this. Public comments, citizens' comments, informational, anybody wishing to speak not on the agenda? Sir? Hi, how are you?
Hey, dear.
So, I have a handout for you.
Can you state for the record who you are, please?
I'm Albert Salonis III, 21 Aldea Ave.
Nice to meet you, Albert.
Hello.
Sir?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So, good evening, everybody. I'm a junior from Shepherd Hill. I perform in the band and winter percussion ensemble. But on my free time, which is kind of limited because the band is a lot of work, but I like to go mountain biking around here. But sadly, there is no mountain biking trails in Dudley, Mass. And there's a large community of bikers that would like this to be approved. Some of the benefits are it would promote healthy lifestyle around the community, and it would provide a resource that's just not a gym, and it would become a respect, and it would hold people, up on the higher standard for environmental awareness and help them understand what the environment is like around here. And half of the fun is going to see the view on the mountain and going to see like the sunsets and all that stuff. Also, there would be a spike in tourism around here, and there's a lot of businesses like Sully's Dog Shack down the road and Big Al's Pizza that would like that business, but also people kind of go on trips like this for days at a time, and they would stay around here in hotels or other places, and they would eat the food here, like Yummies, and that would help the Dudley, the town of Dudley economically, because those small business really keep Dudley going because of the revenue, and that's a very fundamental part of like a rural area like Dudley, to keep those businesses alive, as well as the local environment. People would be educated, and if they're educated, that means they would care about it, and if they care about it, it means they would protect it more than it was originally planned. As far as payment goes, I would like to negotiate a committee of volunteers and other people who would be strongly with this idea, as well as there are grants and fundraising would be available, believe it or not. And I would just like any comments or ideas based upon your half, and it would be around like the land area of Nichols College, behind like that conservation area. Do you guys have any thoughts or concerns or questions?
Greg,
Yes, sir.
a proposal like this certainly is well thought and well spoken. How would we go about beginning the process of like a feasibility, or, because some of that conservation may be restricted to not even bike trail usage?
So, my understanding is all of the rail trails that exist in town are accessible for biking. We also have a recreation commission that was created by town meeting, and I think this is something that they would be anxious to take a look at and see how they might be able to help this young gentleman in terms of implementation of the strategy.
Did we fill all the seats on that?
Yeah, I think we did. I think so. No?
Not the new commission.
That's what I'm thinking.
Oh, the previous one? The other-
Well, I guess I'm wrong.
Any
Mr.
board
Chairman,
members?
is there an age restriction on joining a board in town?
You have to be you have to be a resident, obviously, but is it a registered voter or above, or
You just have to be a resident. I don't think you need to be a registered voter to serve on a board or a committee.
so could a minor essentially serve?
Sure. Depends on where the person declares their residence, where they vote.
Mr. Massey?
Well, I've known Al since he was shorter than me, which was, probably not.
6 months ago?
So, one of the things that we like to hear is economic development, so you were wise to take that approach. Anything that lures people to town to spend money, I am in favor of. There's a lot of questions around, to Mr. Sullivan's point, like access. Can we actually, on some conservation land, they're walking trails, they don't want any, definitely no motorized bikes, but other things. But I think, anything that's more like drawn out, because I know the land trust and some of the conservation people, they like to promote the fact that we have these trails, walking trails. So if I think it was kind of tied to something like that, it would be more effective, right? Anything that makes us a destination is great.
Yeah.
Right, with our limited resources, limited, places to put stuff, it's good. But I think the town administrator's idea about maybe you sign up for the recreation commission.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can drive it that way, and as we figure out, because there's a lot of, before we even get into how we would fund anything, we'd really figure out like what it is, what it would look like, and if we could even do it in certain
Yeah.
places.
I mean, also, you guys would be a pioneer in the sense that there are not a lot of biking, specifically trails around here. I mean, there's a lot of hiking, but they're just so treacherous with rocks. Like, you can't get down there with a bike. It's
Sure.
crazy.
I mean,
But
the rail trail you can, but
Yeah.
I mean, that's, on a bike, it's like, okay, I'm
Yeah.
done. Okay, it's not,
Yeah.
I get it.
but I just wanted to ask you guys for help and like provide some point of direction because I know, like, laws and stuff like for protected lands are, like a priority, of course, but just like an idea of like a feasible place or location that would be, considered acceptable for this kind of use. Just asking for help,
Mr. Massey?
Another key thing you just said is access, right? You
Right.
know, I'm a big fan of people having access to natural resources in town, especially town residents, so.
Right.
I think, Mr. Chairman, I think there's a few things you might have to do. There's Recreation Commission, but also Conservation might have an angle here, depending. I know that when some of the Eagle Scout projects wanted to build things over certain things, they had to get some boxes checked like this
Right.
too. So,
Yeah.
do we know?
I think a good place to start would be, give his contact information to our office, and they can help you do a little bit of the initial legwork.
Yeah,
I
that'd
think
be
Mr.
greatly
Massey's-
appreciated.
Right, as Mr. Massey stated, we just need to find out some of that land, what its deeded uses.
Yeah, exactly. Like that was my big concern, thinking about like zoning and all that, like how is this land, categorized and what is restricting
Right.
the use of it, So
Right.
I just had no idea.
And another, to tie right into it too, if we are looking for seats on our Recreation Commission, now would be a good time to put a public plug out there, and if you have any other like-minded friends or parents or whoever, maybe try to grassroots fill some of those seats on that committee. But most of it would start with Greg and Michelle.
Okay,
So
thank you.
If you want to leave your contact information,
Yeah,
either email the office or call
yeah,
right before you leave tonight.
of course, yeah.
And one of the things, just as another point, Mr. Chairman, really, he should probably talk to the scouts too, because if you do get approval to do some of these things, somebody might want to have an Eagle project to help you create said trail,
Of
right?
course, why not?
So don't forget about that.
Of course.
No, it's a great idea.
Yeah.
Great idea.
Mr. Chairman, I also want to commend you. You're a junior in high school,
Yes,
taking time out of a Monday night, putting pen to paper and coming forth with something like this.
Yeah,
Attaboy.
thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you all.
Thanks a bunch,
Right.
guys.
And then Al, you can even come back and talk to Greg, get you back on the agenda in a month or so, or whatever, 6 weeks, with some kind of update, and then it'll actually be an official agenda item too, because right now we couldn't actually vote on it because it wasn't
Okay.
posted.
All right,
But if you can come back in a month or 6 weeks
all right.
with an update, or,
Yeah, that would be outstanding. Thank you. I'll leave my information with you guys after the
yeah,
proceedings.
plus the weather will be a little bit better, hopefully. Be riding into a 60-mile-an-hour headwind.
Of course.
Oh, that's half the fun, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
All right, Albert, thank you.
Thank
Next
you, Al.
presentation.
Nice job.
Anybody else wishing to be heard not on the agenda? Mr. Zakowski.
Okay, for the record, my name's Scott Sikowski. I live on 8 Catherine Street. And I'm here tonight basically to seeking some information. As one of 5 members of the Water and Sewer Commission. I'm not speaking for anyone else, I'm speaking for myself. A number of weeks ago, I heard rumor or heard that the town was looking to outsource stuffing of envelopes for bills, billing, water and sewer bills mainly. Other than that, I hadn't heard anything else and just kind of kept my ears open. And then last week, we got a bill for said outsourcing of the bills. And I was just wondering how that decision was made, who made that decision, and how that wouldn't be included in what we pay now for indirect costs. We pay indirect costs based, as I understand it, to cover, and it makes sense to cover costs and expenses here in this building. collector, treasurer, assessors, and so on, whoever provides services and whatever for the Water and Sewer Commission. I did see, I've got a, I did bring it, okay. I mean, the amount isn't really the concern. It's the principle of we're paying now for billing services, and then now we're getting a bill for added to that. And I'm just wondering where that all came from, how that decision was made.
Go ahead. Hi, Scott. Yeah, I was a little bit aware of it, only through communication with the treasurer's office. So I know that the treasurer is responsible for issuance and collection of bills. And so what Scott is referring to, I would suggest is a decision that was made by Mr. Carmignani and the treasurer's office based upon his workload and the fact that he's got a certain number of people that are available to deal with all of our different bills and everything. I'd be happy to set up a meeting with you, me, and Mr. Carmignani, and we can go over the details of what the reasoning was for that, and get you the information that you desire, Scott.
Oh, and but the major concern is how would that be? I mean, like I said, we're paying, how we ended up getting a bill from a local printing company to pay for that.
I'm sorry, I don't have any knowledge of the bill. I don't have a copy of it. Rich didn't send me a copy of it. I think Rich is kind of the key person to get into the conversation.
Okay, I mean, I came in Thursday night to try to get information, but
We can set up a meeting with Rich?
after the offices were closed.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Scott, I wasn't aware. I did notice the excise bills came in a water sewer envelope, though.
Yes, and the water sewer bill came in a town collector bill.
Oh, did it?
Town collector envelope, yes. That was a product of sending it out to, outsourcing it, and without, I'm assuming, without proper direction. I know, I got three, I wondered why did I get 3 water and sewer bills? I didn't. I got 3 excise tax bills in water and sewer envelopes. Originally, I was concerned that they were franked envelopes because the way the postage was printed on them. And that would have been a major issue. But I understand, I haven't found out yet how that was done, but hopefully that postage meter was billed not to the address on the envelope, return address on the envelope.
Well, Greg, if it's easier to, you can have a discussion with their clerk and bring it forward to their board if it's easier during the day than trying to get Scott or the chairman in for water sewer. Is that all right? If you can-
Yeah, I can't get
Sure.
here during the day. It just,
Right.
it's not happening. Workload at work has just gotten crazy. It's hard to even make a phone call during the day.
So if Greg can set something up with your clerk and talk to Chairman Small,
Well,
Mr. Carmignani.
maybe Rich can talk to them, and Laurie can give you guys an update.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, we can't, Lori reports to them saying that's okay. And I know he's only 1 out of 5, but I mean, we can talk to your full-time staff. I mean, if George is in the building in the morning for a few minutes here or there,
Okay?
but hopefully get an answer.
All right, thank you.
Yep,
Okay,
thanks, Scott.
Scott.
Anybody else wishing to be heard, not on the agenda? Seeing none. Town Administrator report.
Oh, hand them down.
Oh, the roof.
So this is a tabulation of the bids that we had for the roof project. I hear things banging around on the roof as we speak. But it's indicative of the fact that we need to do some repairs up on top of the roof. Let me just walk you through. We received a total of 8 bids. So the architect originally estimated the roof project would be a $300,000 cost. We had a project budget of $335,000. We also had completed some work with the HVAC system, so there was a larger appropriation of $450,000. So after you deduct out the expenses from the $450,000 that partially went toward the cooling system in this building, we had a total of $343,145 in available funds for the project. And our low bid is $364,000, which the architect's estimate was under, but it's still a good price based upon what we see here, and the work would commence in March and be completed no later than June 1st. So at this point, what my effort is to look and see where we may have an additional $20,855, then come back to your next meeting and request a bid award. We have 30 days from the date of opening to make an award, so we're well within that time frame. The low bidder is qualified, so if you look at the
roof.
Yeah, the documents that are here, they have to provide DCAM certification and updates. They have that. They have a good track record of doing roof projects, not a fly-by-night, and they're willing to commence the work in March. So, but for us locating the funds, $20,855 would be ready to award this bid this evening, but I think it's something we need to go forward with, and we'll find the money and come back to you with a recommendation to award at the next meeting. Any questions on that?
Any questions? Mr. Massey?
Mr. Chairman, so Greg, there's the delta between the low bidder and high bidder is huge.
Yep.
How does that happen? And I guess that's my first question. Second, are any of these local people?
One of them was,
Okay.
but the local person was not. I think they were the second low bid,
Okay.
is my recollection.
I mean, some of these look like, you know, they want to stay in the game, and I'm so busy, so I'm going to throw out the highest
Pretty-
bid possible. And
Pretty
maybe I'll get
much.
it.
I mean, what we had thought was the fact that most of these guys are pretty busy June, July, and August. They do school roofs, so this tends to be a slack time of year for projects. But what we didn't anticipate was that low bid was still going to exceed the amount of money that we had available.
What do you think? Was it what caused it? Just the economy, and they're all busy, and they.
I have my theories.
Hmm.
And don't forget, all of these contractors pay prevailing wage rate, so you can't compare
Oh,
this versus what someone gets for a commercial roof, private business. We're obligated to pay prevailing wage, and no doubt that drives up the cost of the project by a certain percentage. I kind of answer your question. I think there are people that put in bids that probably didn't really want the work, but if it were to come in at the price that they had, they'd make a hefty profit. But the fact that we didn't get anything within our budget range is disappointing, but I still think we're within the realm of getting the project approved and getting it before you at your next meeting to approve.
Yeah, I'm just curious. Like, I know the architect worked pretty hard on putting that together. It just, you know, if you look at like some of these bids are way off what they had said. So
Yeah,
I
so
just want to make sure.
typically bidders increase prices where there are unknowns.
Yeah.
So in this case, we had, you'll remember, this past summer, we had an infrared scan done of the roof.
Yep.
And it identified a number of wet areas in the building.
Yep.
This bid supposes they're going to strip away and put down all new insulation. One of the possibilities is that we retain some of the existing insulation. We prefer not to do so, but as a last resort, if the insulation is dry and serviceable, we may decide that there are areas to be able to save costs and get within budget.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Thanks, Greg.
I'm good. It's lowest price.
And we'll be back at the next meeting. Mr. Zakowski reminded me that we hadn't yet set a date for the public hearing on the consideration of a Department of Public Works, and I'm going to recommend to the board that we do it on March 25th. That'll give us enough time to determine whether the board wishes to include an article on the warrant. And you'll see the last day of closing the warrant is April 19th, so it gives you some time. I did reach out to our consultants, and they haven't indicated their availability, but the one piece that I'd like to have for that meeting is draft special legislation. So what we need is town meeting to approve special legislation. and that is in the hands of town council. I gave a copy to town council. I said we needed it back by a certain date, and she's working on it, and I have no doubt in my mind they'll be back and be ready for that meeting on the 25th, and I think that's the time that we should have a hearing as the board previously requested. So, thoughts, questions?
Any questions?
Public hearing is good.
Okay, so Michelle, put that down for the 25th. And at your last meeting, you had approved a grant application being submitted for some CDBG funding. So the amount was $274,225. The applications are due on Friday. So I would ask the chair to sign off on the authorization, just indicating that the board supports that. And I know you voted at your meeting to support the project. And then lastly, there is a CEO certification which says that we're going to comply with all of these federal rules involving CDBG money. Mr. Sullivan, it says that you sign off on that as the CEO. We are hiring Central Mass Regional Planning Commission if the grant is awarded to administer it, and they've given us their assurance that they will do so. So based upon their good faith, I would ask you to sign where it says signature, Chief Elected Official.
That's you.
Shouldn't there be music?
I know.
Yeah.
I think that might be one other page that needs the chair's signature. Hang on.
Not again.
Let's see.
Darth Vader standard.
Displacement.
Let's go.
So CDBG funds cannot be used to displace non-CDBG funds under control of the municipality. Basically, it says we're not going to swap these money to pay for money we already have on hand. So, Mr. Chair, as the chief elected official, there's a box there that says signature. I'd also ask you to sign off on that.
Delegate that one to the vice chair, let him be responsible.
Signed under pains and penalties of perjury. Thank you.
Please turn off your cell phone before you,
Forgot to say it.
I know. Usually do.
I know. Oh, of course.
Now, Mr. Chair, I have some other issues that are related to the budget, and I'll bring that up later in the meeting under that agenda item. Thank you.
Any questions of the town administrator?
Thank you, Greg.
Thanks.
Accept the report as presented, Greg, thank you. Brown Town, focus on local businesses. Not tonight, Michelle, I thought we had somebody coming in. Oh, is that the next meeting? Next meeting.
Jeez.
License and permits, we have none, we have one, but it's not on the agenda.
No, that's just for you to sign. It's already been
It was already approved. For those of you at home, we have a club license that needed to be signed. Public hearings, we have none. Public business. New director for the Pearl L. Crawford Library, J. Drusilla Carter. I see members of the library trustees present.
You want a drum roll?
Good evening, gentlemen. We
Good
almost
evening.
outnumber you this evening.
Right?
Thank you.
My name is Richard Clark. I currently chair the Board of Trustees of the Pearl L. Crawford Memorial Library, and with me this evening is one of our senior member, Pat Korch, and J. Drusilla Carter, the new director of the Pearl L. Crawford Memorial Library.
Just time in service, Patty means, time in service.
We are very happy to and very privileged to be able to introduce Drusilla to the Board of Selectmen this evening. She has a distinguished background with regards to her academic career and has served as a library director in both rural and urban areas, and there's a lot of excitement among the board with her taking this position and hopefully in the community as well. And we, of course, would invite you to the library. It's not just books anymore. There were snakes last week, and there's ice cream today. But,
What a great day for it.
I know, we're in the wrong building, actually.
Who'd
You
have
were here,
known?
you were with us in December, but you should have scheduled this in February. But
I'm just thinking
next
more like
year, we'll
ice cream.
keep that in mind. Without further ado, Priscilla Carter, the Board of Directors, I'm sorry, the Board of Selectmen of
Selectmen.
the town of Dudley.
Good evening.
Hi.
Evening. It's,
Welcome.
so this is my 4th day on the job. I haven't even been here a week yet. But it's been, I've very much enjoyed meeting the staff and starting to meet some of the patrons, and I'm excited to see what we can do for the community of Dudley. And yeah, unfortunately you're here, so you're missing the representative from Friendly's, who is at the library with free samples,
As we speak.
as we speak.
Motion to adjourn.
It came from you.
You're a hoodlum.
Saved you, Carrie. You owe me.
Yeah.
How about tell us about yourself if you want, like a little bit about your education maybe, your experience? I mean, I saw the email that came out about a week or so ago, but for the
Yes,
public.
so I have a graduate degree in library science and also one in history from the University of South Carolina. I started as a library director in Chesterfield County, South Carolina. Don't worry, no one knows where that is. But I had...
They probably never heard of Dudley either, so we're
So,
probably...
you know, but that was 5 libraries covering 800 square miles. We had extreme poverty, and it was very, very rural. And then I moved from there up to the Blue Ridge Mountains, where I was the director of a library system there. And then went to Willimantic, Connecticut, because I decided to do the urban library thing for a while. And then I was in Cromwell, Connecticut briefly, and now I'm here. So I've been a director for over a decade now. I might possibly have figured out what I'm doing, although some days I wonder.
Not bad to change your mind once in a while.
Right. Right.
Any questions for the new director or the board members? Mr. Massey?
Yeah, so welcome. You know, we're Dudley's a really great bedroom community. Our library is, I would say, beloved. Just the fact that, you know, we don't spend a lot of money on much, but one of the first things that I remember passing around here was a new library. It's people know that they're important. Even in Webster, you know, it's something that people want, need, and we support the library. We always make sure at least we're there with what we can give the library. So, you know, new sign out front with lots of new things and programs. I think people like to see that when they drive by. So, you know, we look forward to you know, making it awesome. Continuing to keep it awesome. So.
Well, I'm certainly going to try.
Yeah.
And next time I come here, I'll try to have the Friendly's person come with me.
There you go. Bring it. You're welcome to come to any of our meetings, you know, department head type thing too. So that's how we'll consider you a department head.
Thank you.
Well, as Mr. Clark said, it's not just books down there.
Yeah.
It's got the teen room, they're very active with the movies. Not a day goes by, you really don't go by, and you look into the right, and there's something going on in that
It's
functional
become
room.
both a cultural center and a lifelong learning center, if you
Yep.
will, and it's for all ages. I mean, it's probably one of the only things in town, aside from the police and the fire department, who often don't want to see coming your way, that people can avail themselves of, and again, all generations. There's an amazing number of programs going on, and I would invite anyone who hasn't visited the website to do so, and better yet, to go into the building.
Mr. Massey?
And do you think we could still have one meeting a year at the library? We
Absolutely.
just did that for the first time.
We will have refreshments.
Yes, yes, but no, absolutely, of course. The Board of Selectmen is always welcome.
Okay.
And while you're there, you can renew your library cards and check out some books.
I look forward to the annual sale every year. I always pick up 5, 6, 7 books there for
That's coming up in April.
nominal costs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Real bargains.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
4th, 5th, and 6th.
It's amazing when you get like 5 or 6 books and you go to give them 20, they try to give me change back. I always say, no, it's whatever the $3 or $4 goes to a good cause, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Can't get that volume anywhere for that price. That's good.
Awesome.
Greg, anything you want to add?
No. Welcome.
Thank
Haley,
you.
as a lifelong resident?
Welcome.
Well, thank you for coming in.
Well, thank you.
Hi, folks.
Thank you.
Next up, you want to handle this one, Bailey? Would you like me to do it?
You got this one.
You going to join the family, or you going to stay with us?
I'll go on that side.
All right, whoa.
Side too much.
Never give up your seat.
Next up, we have a toll booth request from Sean Bo, annual request from Sean Bowes, but this year it is an amended annual request. His daughter Brooke and his son Bailey are joining him this year in riding and raising money for the Pan Mass Challenge. I'd like to ask for an opportunity to hold a toll booth drive on June 8th, 2019, or a rain date of June 15th, 2019. Father's Day?
Gotta keep all the kids together, you know?
15th? Yes,
It's my day.
can't think of a better thing to do.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
Driving around, busy toll booth area.
Yeah, yeah. They can go out for a bike ride right afterwards, so anybody that wants to join, you know, we're all good. What's that? It was the same weekend.
Same weekend?
Yeah, I think it was the 7th last year.
So, what's this, Sean, about your 5th or 6th year at least,
This is
right?
my 8th year.
8th, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Time flies.
A lot of miles.
Yeah. You know what that guy, you look like you're doing okay.
That's why I ride.
Thanks for the
Stay
thank you for the
below
bike.
300, you know?
How about the young folks with you? Anything you want to add? And now you're going to ride as a team? You have to keep up with them, or you know,
He drafts
you're
behind.
going to keep up with? Oh, he's going to draft behind you?
That didn't take
Oh,
long.
it's usually the other way around. Right, it's the other way around usually. Oh, you're going to keep up with him. That's the key.
Yeah, yeah.
Ah, all
He
right.
can fly up the hills and then he goes backwards down them.
Yeah. It's awesome. Good for you folks.
Awesome.
Anything you guys like to add?
I just appreciate it, you know, all the towns members, you know, the surrounding towns, website, everybody is, you know, very gracious on that day, which is awesome to see for a great cause. And I appreciate the opportunity to do this each year for the cancer cause, so.
Well, I used to see firsthand, as you know, in my previous life.
Yes.
The effort that you used to put forward for some of those fundraising, and it's the goals now they have to reach the same goal as you to ride?
Yes, yeah,
So you're looking for triple the usual,
15,000.
15,000 total minimum?
Yes,
1-5.
1-5.
So
Yes.
anybody at home that's watching, I mean, all our toll booths, we ask for generosity, but, you know, this one here is a triple Lindy, as
Yeah.
Rodney Dangerfield would say.
Oh, look at this one. I have to go watch that now.
I wish you guys well. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the toll booth request by the Bose family for Saturday, June 8th, 2019, with the rain date of Saturday, June 15th, 2019, for the Pan Mass Challenge.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, and I always add in, as you know, you just speak with the chief. I know you've done it, both chiefs, whatever the public safety aspect.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
And all the rules, Mr. Joseph's not here, so I'll say, you
Yeah.
know, there will be no children in the middle of the road, right?
We know that one.
He's watching. That was him. All right.
Motion made and seconded. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Good luck, folks.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
guys.
much.
Yes, Sean.
Thank
Hi,
you.
guys.
Nice seeing you, Sean.
Bailey, you gotta come back up, though.
He's trying to sneak out the side door, there's no doubt. It's only got like another couple of months. No, he's done it before. Next up, Black Tavern Historical Society, a request to use the town common on Dudley Hill. Boy, they're way ahead of it today, this year, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Saturday, October 5th, 2019, for the 7th Annual Craft Fair, and a parking waiver on Center Road, Saturday, October 5th, 2019, on the west side for the 7th Annual Black Tavern Craft Fair. Mr. Marcy.
Chief, did they've already, they usually got their stuff buttoned up. All right, so moved on both.
Second on both.
Greg, this is okay so far? They must want to publicize it, maybe.
Yeah, I spoke to Mr. Bassinet today. He didn't know whether he was gonna get here or not, but he's aware of what they need to do to get this thing in place.
I think we should hold it up and make him come in and do his two-hat presentation.
Oh, he will anyway.
Yeah, I know.
Come on in,
I
Ed.
don't know.
Can't keep a good actor down.
That's right.
He's even better at the event.
Yeah, oh,
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
he's so shy.
Time listed on it? Start time or anything like that?
No.
Should we amend that for a time, or?
I think so long as you approve it, we'll have a time, and it'll be
Fair.
publicized.
Okay.
Motion made and accepted to grant the use and the request for the waiver. Can we take that? All in
We made
favor?
him-
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. Chair will entertain a motion to entertain the formal adoption of the hazard mitigation plan, unless there's any changes from the draft.
Peter?
Here.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and the rest of the board.
Good evening.
My name is Peter Peliquin. I'm with Central Mass Regional Planning Commission. I'm an associate planner there. So for those of you unfamiliar with CMRPC, we are one of 13 regional planning commissions in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We perform all planning services for the city of Worcester and the remaining towns. I'm here today to request that the board formally adopt the hazard mitigation plan. There have been 0 changes since you voted on the draft. The only changes that have been made are minimal, and they include dates and removal of the draft watermark.
Well, in that case, if it's-
Peter, could you just state where has it already been approved through FEMA?
Correct.
So that after FEMA approves, then it's back to the board for their approval?
No, we already made that. So, the draft, once the draft goes before the board, which it did back in December, it gets sent off to MEMA. MEMA approves it. MEMA then sends it on to FEMA. FEMA approves it pending adoption of the board. So tonight, when the board adopts the plan will go back to FEMA. FEMA will give it the final approval. And as of tonight, once you formally adopt it, it will be a live working document for the town.
No hesitations?
None whatsoever. It involved all of the department heads that are here this evening. We all participated in that exercise over a period of months, and I think we started right around the time the tornado roared through town. That gave us pause to think what could be possible if we didn't have a plan like this in place.
I'll make a motion, right?
Yep, I'm good.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we formally adopt the hazard mitigation plan voted on draft 12/3/2018.
Second.
Made and seconded. Any further question, comments? Public safety? Good.
I just want to thank Peter and Central Mass Regional Planning Commission. They did a great job in assisting us in pulling this together, and their work is appreciated.
So noted and much appreciated. No further discussion. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Thanks, Pete.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Peter, do I give you these, or do you,
Yeah.
might want to get a couple more signatures on the way up, with the 2 people here tonight?
I'll make sure I
The people in the front row would be glad to sign it.
Next up, we have the annual town meeting warrant per Mass General Law, Chapter 39, subsection 10. Open the warrant February 25th, 2019, today. Close the warrant April 19th, 2019, at 1 p.m., which is a Friday. Last day to post the warrant, May 10th, Friday, 2019, with a town meeting date of Monday, May 20th, 2019. Need a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second?
Mr. Marcy and Mr. Sigenovich, any changes or corrections or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Next up, to approve the annual town election warrant. The election this year is June 10, 2019. I will read the warrant, and I will read open seat where there is no incumbent running. Selectmen, 3-year term, Paul Joseph, open 3-year term. Town clerk, open 3-year term. Board of Assessors, 3-year term, incumbent Tom Brusso. Dudley Charlton Regional School District, 3-year term, incumbent Catherine M. Kabala. Southern Worcester County Regional Vocational or the Bay Path School District, 3 years, incumbent Timothy Shaw. Board of Health, 3-year term, incumbent Roberta Johnson. Board of Health, a 1-year, unexpired term. Water Sewer Commissioner, 3 years, incumbent Tom Fournier. Water Sewer Commissioner, incumbent Scott Pekachick. Library Trustee, 3 years, incumbent, take a bow, Pat Korch. Library Trustee, 3 years, also bowing, Mr. Clark. Library Trustee, 1 year, unexpired. Housing Authority, 5-year term, Pellegrino J. Dioria. Housing Authority, 4 years, unexpired term, George Abasol. Planning Board, 3-year term, incumbent Guy Horn Jr. Planning Board, 3 years, Pam Humphrey. Planning Board, a 2-year unexpired term. Planning Board, 1 year unexpired term. Motion to accept.
Motion to accept, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Marcy.
Second.
Mr. Sigenovich. Just want to make a quick plug for the town of Dudley. Here's a chance for all the armchair quarterbacks and backroom generals and people that like to cast stones from the hinterlands onto the roof. Plenty of open seats to get involved, folks. Any further comments? Hearing none. All in favor of the ballot as read?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Papers are available when, Mr. Chairman?
March 4th.
March
Right.
4th.
Oh, yes, nomination papers, March 4th, 50 certified signatures required. Last day to obtain the papers is Monday, April 22nd, 2019. Last day to submit is Monday, April 22nd, 2019 at 5 PM. Last day for the Board of Registrars to certify papers and file is Monday, May 6th. Last day to object or withdraw is Wednesday, May 8th, 2019. Last day to register the vote is Tuesday, May 21st, 2019. Last day to post or publish is Monday, June 3rd, 2019. Here's your chance, everybody. Next up on the rapidly dwindling agenda, student representative, Mr. Bose.
Oh, we've got a budget kickoff.
Oh, budget kickoff. Nobody goes to that.
Mr. Chair,
Gonna hold the football?
Hold the football.
I'll
Hold the
it
football.
for you, believe
let me
me.
just hand out a copy of the Bay Path budget, because they did submit their budget to the board, and normally it's just a little blip on the radar screen, but this year it's a little bit more than a blip. The budget is up $157,750, and the reason for that is there are 21 new students from Dudley that are going to be going to Bay Path. I did meet with the superintendent of schools. We went through the budget along with his business manager. I'm comfortable with it, but given the amount of the budget increase, which is substantial compared to how it's been in the past, he offered whether he should come in and meet with the Board of Selectmen. You'll note from his cover sheet that I have in front of me, the school will have their budget hearing and will adopt their budget on March 4th. So I think it's probably a good idea to invite him in to one of our meetings in March to kind of go through it and answer your questions relative to the budget. So of the member communities, they do request only the minimum required contribution, so there are no excessive expenses in here. But depending upon the change in student enrollment, whether district communities add or lose students, then the assessment will go up. And again, I mentioned to you, Dudley is gaining 21 students, and the increase in the assessment is $157,750. Charlton, just to give things some perspective, the good people in Charlton, their assessment is up $257,980. And to turn it in the other direction, Charlton is losing students, and their assessment is down $97,199. So I think it's a good idea, if the selectmen don't want to have a meeting here, maybe we can bring in the FAA, and the FAA can hold a meeting, and we can invite you into that discussion. But I think anytime we have a budget that goes up by almost $160,000, it's a good idea to sit down and go through and understand where it is.
Mr. Massey.
Greg, this is just basically driven by more kids wanting to go.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is.
Okay.
It's exactly what it
Yeah, I've
is.
always, it's like a co-opetition, right, between public school and Bay Path. It's
Yeah,
always-
so
it's always
if
been
you,
like
if you
that.
kind of track the figures, local enrollment would be down in Dudley Charlton. I don't have the number in front of me, but their enrollment would be down. So as goes, Bay Path is going up. Enrollment in Dudley Charlton schools and at all grade levels for both Dudley and Charlton is down a bit. So
Okay.
it remains to be seen where we go, but to put something together.
Any questions on the budget presentation?
We'll set up a meeting, I think, is the best way.
Right.
And I suggested to Michelle, we have it at the FAA level to give them an opportunity to sit in on it also.
Great idea.
Charlton and Dudley went up the most out of all the towns that go there.
Of course. Let me hand out a copy of the budget calendar. So you already voted the date of the annual town meeting, May 20th, kind of working backwards. The date for your budget recommendations would be April 29th, and that would be the selectmen and the FAA. Your budget review sessions would need to be done on or about April 22nd. I'm going to submit my balanced budget to you by April 8th, and that will be a balanced budget based upon available revenues, and I'll talk a little bit about that as we get going a little further in the presentation. I note that there is a the joint two-town meeting with Dudley Charlton Schools on March 20th, and I think it's important that we show up and understand the school department budget, and the schools are nice enough to reach out and put this meeting together for the purposes of hearing both Dudley and Charlton officials on the school budget. The department head meetings on the budgets would take place from March 18th to March 29th. And then lastly, departmental budgets would be due into the Board of Selectmen on March 15th. Part of the reason why the budget process is a little bit later than you may see in other communities are a couple of things that we look at. We look for some finality on the governor's state aid resolution, and he's submitted that today. Excuse me, not submitted, submitted it back in January. And it's not final, but it does provide for a $72,000, almost a $73,000 increase. So I'll take a couple of these and I'll pass them down to you. So this sheet summarizes what people hear as the cherry sheet estimates, which is state aid that comes into Dudley. Most of it is in the form of unrestricted government aid. In the past, that was called lottery aid. And lottery, that's where most of that money comes from, is lottery proceeds. That gets funneled through the state and directed back to cities and towns is unrestricted government aid. And the amount that we're projected to receive is $1,897,257. That number doesn't really change significantly, but the important thing is we do keep an eye on this, and it needs to be adopted by both the House and the Senate, and oftentimes there's compromise that's done right in time for a town meeting. So we don't have a great amount of money that comes in from our state aid, but it is something nevertheless to keep an eye on. Any questions on state aid? John?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, so Greg, looks like, so UGA, as they call it, went up about, what is that, $40,000,
Yeah.
$50,000. But I noticed like the Chapter 70 amount is down $4,000, or no?
So what happens is Chapter 70 goes directly to the school district. So in this case, it goes directly to Dudley Charlton Schools, and it goes directly to Bay Path. The amount that you see here represents the amount that goes for students that we have on a tuition basis.
Mm-hmm.
So we have some students that go to Norfolk County Agricultural School, and in the past, we've had students that go to Bay Path. So whether those out-of-district tuitions, there is some Chapter 70 money in a very small amount that follows those students and comes into our budget.
Okay, so if someone drops off, it's okay to go down, because
Yep.
it follows it, got it. All right, I know that Chapter 70 is something we yell about all the time.
Yeah, so the Chapter 70, like you said, it goes directly to the schools, and we receive none of that. That's why our state aid amount is so low in comparison to other communities. But that happens with all regional school districts. The money goes directly to the schools.
Got it.
I could maybe editorialize at one time, going back about 17 or 18 years ago, the state used to adopt a supplemental state aid appropriation every spring and distribute it in the form of either unrestricted or Chapter 70 aid, and we haven't seen that in, I'm going to guess, about 2001, maybe even earlier. So, just to kind of dive into revenues to give you an idea, so if you want to take a look at the second page that's attached here, it's a 6-month summary of both expenses, which is the first column to the left, and revenues. So we like to do a 6-month snapshot and see how we look, and see how we look in comparison to the previous year. And on the good news, revenues are up $337,631. That's pretty good news. However, there are always reasons as to why revenues increase and decrease. And the same thing holds true on expenses. If you look at it, you'll say we have $1.7 million in additional expenses that we didn't have. But when you realize that's either attributable to the timing of the billing from the regional schools, up $772,000, or payments under the town's debt service, $888,252. You'll see that the expenses are pretty similar when you subtract out those two anomalies. So, our revenue growth is modest, and I guess that kind of gives me to the point where I can kind of say where I think we're going to be for fiscal year 2020, beginning on July 1, 2019. So people say, we plan for our fiscal year is July 1 to June 30th. So this is the year beginning July 1 of 2019 and ends June 30th of 2020. So what we do is we look at all of our revenue sources. And I mentioned to you that state aid was up about $73,000, and that's good news. We also look and see what other revenue sources will push the town budget in one direction or the other. So we have an allowable increase under Proposition 2.5, and that's $345,030, 345,030. We look at new growth. So any new construction that takes place in the town, whether it's new homes or new commercial buildings, that's revenue that's in addition to the increase under Prop 2.5. We budget $50,000 in new growth. Realistically, that number probably comes in closer to $75,000, maybe $100,000. But I think given the fact that we're halfway through the fiscal year, $50,000 seems like a supportable and a justifiable number. And then lastly, we look at growth in local receipts. Local receipts are up almost flat. So we generate, people say, I pay a lot in the way of fees to the town, and that's considered the local estimated receipts. And those local estimated receipts are almost $2.9 million. And of that $2.9 million, more than half of it, $1,543,000, is motor vehicle excise tax. So motor vehicle excise tax is the biggest local receipt that we receive. And then next would be departmental revenue. And then thirdly would be licenses and permits. And all of those numbers taken together total about $2.9 million. And we're estimating a slight increase in local receipts of about $30,875. And then lastly, we look at what we have on hand for free cash, and we did save a little bit of free cash, $30,740, which I'm not a fan of applying free cash to balance the budget in the fall, but I like it being able to use it toward the budget in the spring. So it'll either be used to balance the budget or it'll go toward the snow and ice deficit. So the total revenue increase to the town for fiscal 20 is $529,644. I like to say round that to $530,000, which is about a 2.7% increase, and it does not include any changes in the enterprise fund. So the enterprise fund is separately accounted for. We do not include that in our revenue growth, but the $530,000 is about a 2.7% increase for Dudley for the foreseeable future in the next year. And I just want to conclude, because what we like to do is we say to department heads to come in at less than that amount, because what happens is we have certain mandates that we need to subtract from that number. I mentioned to you before minimum funding for education, so Bay Path and Dudley Charlton schools. So that gets subtracted from the $530,000. Our retirement assessment. So we pay for pensions for our retired municipal employees, and that's up about $66,000. And then the other fixed costs would be health insurance and non-exempt debt amounts to be determined. So the way, in simple terms, we take the $530,000 and we deduct against it our minimum required education funding. We deduct further our retirement increase, our change in health insurance benefits, and the change in our non-exempt debt. And then that leaves us with the amount of money that we have on the table to distribute to all of the town departments. So despite the fact that we had an override that went through, which certainly put the schools in a very good situation, we're not rolling in the money here as we have in the past, and we won't be doing that. A 2.7% budget increase across the board is pretty modest. We'll make changes and tweaks however we possibly can. We have contractual increases that we need to be able to pay for next year. And thankfully, those are fairly modest due to good relationship with our unionized employees. So the cost of services or cost of contracted labor is fairly modest, but nevertheless, we want to make sure that we can pay that so that the services can be performed in the community. And that's kind of a real quick 15-minute summary of the budget, where we stand on revenues, what we looked for fixed costs, and the calendar involved. Any questions?
Mr. Sigenovich, Mr. Massey.
So Greg, are we basically asking, I seem to think that 2.7% increase in revenue is a little higher than it was last year.
It is.
But because of the stuff we have coming in, are we gonna ask people to level fund again to
No,
start?
I think a budget increase somewhere in the range of 2%, John, is probably a pretty realistic number. I don't want to create panic by having people sending out notices of layoff, because if you look at level funding, people are still entitled to contractual increases. The budget, the plan that I have in terms of revenues is pretty conservative. What's happened, John, is we have that override that got approved for the schools. And what that does is it raises the town's tax levy. So the town's tax levy for this year is $13.8 million. So it's 2.5% of $13.8 million. So that number, even though we voted an override, the 2.5 also includes the override amount. So that's considered revenue for the town. So think about that. So I think a 2% increase is a good place to start for departments, and that would be my recommendation in terms of where we start with the budget.
Good?
Yeah. For now.
Any questions, if there's anyone in the audience?
Everybody good?
I can see you guys are all thrilled.
Early in the process.
Better than some years.
I do want to have some good news, and I forgot to mention it under my report. It's got to do maybe with some possible revenues. So administration has been approached by a company that wants to build a cannabis grow facility in town. Before people start to panic, it would be inside of an existing structure and building. It would not be free-flowing and outside. It would also require approval by the planning board of a special permit, and it would be restricted to the zones that were approved at town meeting back in October, which is mainly our industrial zones. And then lastly, the proponent would be required to enter into a host agreement with the Board of Selectmen. Host agreement stipulates the local services and how those local services get paid for, and justifies what our local costs would be. On top of that, the town has a local option tax of 3%. So for every dollar in revenue that gets generated through the wholesale production of cannabis product, the town will receive 3% of that revenue stream. I don't want to get into particulars in terms of location, but I will tell you that I thought that the conversations what I've had with this individual have been fairly positive. And we hear about these facilities here, there, and everywhere in Massachusetts. And what I want to do is get that information out there soon, because we really have nothing to hide. It was something that was approved by the town at the ballot box, and town meeting adopted a pretty detailed zoning bylaw amendment at October town meeting, which was also approved by the Attorney General. So I want to at least get that out there. And if there are any questions, I can answer them in a general sense if you'd like.
Well, so to be clear, Greg, we're talking about a grow facility. We're not talking about a retail
That is
operation.
100% correct, and I had a conversation with the project proponent today, and he reminded me that it would not be a retail facility.
Correct. And I just want to add, well, maybe those folks were right about the solar farm. Maybe we can be a farming community again.
So that's interesting. Interesting to see how,
Just a stand-up today.
what the revenue would look like for us, obviously. Take a look at that. But I'm also thinking, I'm glad we actually
Italian guy.
put some bylaws in place just so we were ready for it, because it happened quicker than I thought, right?
Did?
If we didn't, so what would have happened if we hadn't, like, taken, like, the standard state stuff as bylaws? What might have happened?
Say you end up in a situation like this happened in some of the other communities in this region where they're inundated with applications. So remember, while the town was putting together its zoning bylaw, there was a moratorium on any facility coming to town. While that moratorium was in place in Dudley, there were locations elsewhere, not in Dudley, but in other communities where these things were already in the pipeline. So our moratorium was in effect until the bylaw got adopted by town meeting, and it gives at least an opportunity to go out and say, this is where we want to see these type of indoor grow facilities located, which is in industrial zones, not in residential property.
Right, I was gonna say, Greg, you beat me to it. We were proactive from day one.
Yep.
When the police chief proposed the moratorium,
He did.
waiting till the state regs were finalized, and then proactive with our zoning.
So that way we aren't losing agricultural land to one of these.
And moreover, we're maybe reusing an old, tired building for which there are no other uses that seem readily available.
That too.
Which means they'd have to make all the necessary improvements to whatever building this is. and- Oh, okay. Beautify the area. Okay. We'll see.
Any questions for the budget kickoff and the potential update to a new business?
I apologize, I wasn't at your last meeting, so I took a little bit extra time tonight.
No, that was good.
I was down enjoying 86-degree weather in Florida.
Which you can soon be doing full-time if you so desire.
Yes, you will.
Brings us to the highlight of our evening, student rep, Mr. Bose.
Hello. So this past week, as you know, we were on school vacation, but Shepherd Hill was still active. The past 2 weekends, the cheerleading team won grand champs at both competitions. Winter sports just wrapped up, and winter percussion had their first competition, and they won their division at Dartmouth. And spring sports signups are now open, and next Friday will be our annual dodgeball tournament. And that's it for
How many
tonight.
years is that for the tournament? It's been quite a few.
I want to say it's over 10 now.
Yeah,
I don't know the
Wow.
exact number.
awesome. Any questions for the student rep?
Good job, Bailey.
Good.
I'm good.
Board member comments. Mr. Sigenovich,
I'm good, thank you.
Mr. Massey.
I'm good as well, Mr. Chairman.
I just have a couple brief ones. I want to thank Water Sewer. Again, we get forwarded the minutes of their last meeting. I noticed one of the highlights of their meeting was a discussion they had with the developer off of Jesse Road, 4 lots. See there, the water department required an extra hydrant, probably due to the length of the road. There were some other changes, I think, to questions about sewage. So I thank the Water Sewer Commission for being proactive on a new development. Which brings me to the other regulatory board in town, the planning board, who I noticed gave a bond reduction to Pierpont Estates in order to release some lots. I know we have no control over that. I know the board has spoken about not in favor of that type of action. I understand the engineer looked at the property, but I also want to add, there was some correspondence. The developer owes money to the town. I spoke to the treasurer. The town has a bylaw in effect that no building lots can be released when you owe money to the town. So I would hope that the building department was made notice of the monies owed, and the developer who owes the money would just make me think we need some more good faith on that behalf.
We end up here every time.
We're giving monies back to a developer, to a subdivision that's not completed, and the subdivision owes money to the town. He's looking for permission to build some more. So I'm asking.
Just looking for the officers to be elected, Mr. Chairman. I think there's lots of open planning board spots.
Yeah, just ask the town administrator to verify if that information is correct. The treasurer said it was, but I would like,
I'll absolutely look into it.
certainly would hope that building permits are not released until this gentleman is 100% square with the town of Dudley.
I mean, we all tell I know we've talked about this, there's probably some things I don't know, but we always teach our kids, do what you say you're gonna do. Finish what you started, and, then we always end up dealing with the aftermath later with road acceptance and drainage and all these other things, so I'm hoping there was a real good reason.
Well, as their email stated, the engineer did review, and I guess it's within their purview, but it just, you look at the whole,
You lose any leverage you have to get
Well,
stuff done.
if he's already got his permits, I mean, I don't think he can revoke them, but I mean, that subdivision started out with they ruptured their hay bales at one point because it rained so much it was backed up and they flooded half of the pond. Oh, half's probably an overstatement, but, which would involve some mitigation. So there's been issues since the first shovel went in the ground, so that's all I got. Departmental communication, police chief, fire and EMS, interim foreman, acting superintendent.
Come on, Stan, you got anything? No? No?
George.
That's long for a business card, Stan. That's a long one.
Mr. Clark, as long as you're here as a chairman, anything from the library trustees?
Just that we have our monthly meeting tomorrow. What are you thinking? There's to attend?
There you go, everyone. Open to the public. Come see the new library director.
Yep.
Michelle, anything on the administrative side of the town? No Santa's elves, no little Easter bunny stuff, no?
Now you just make it
Oh,
work.
Mr. Chairman,
Oh,
may
oh,
I-
I knew it.
You got Easter. Carrying his egg roll.
yeah.
Egg roll, yeah, down at Yummy's.
Is the library going to be doing the Easter egg hunt this year for the kids? No pressure.
I honestly do not know, but I will ask our children's librarian when I see her tomorrow.
Okay. The last 3 years I volunteered at it.
Yeah, it was a rousing success.
It was.
I'm being
It
serious.
was.
I'm being serious.
I'd be more than happy to
That's
do it again
Gary's-
if you're doing it.
That's Carrie's jam, so.
That
he should
is,
go.
that's my thing.
Yeah.
He looks great in bunny ears, too.
No.
I mean, you gotta really, those footy pajamas really put him over the top.
Shoot your eye out.
No executive session tonight.
We do not.
Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adjourn for this
Mr.
evening.
Marcy.
Second.
Second by Mr. Sigenovich. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Have a great night, everybody.
Hey, everybody. Thank you.